I'm getting too old for this shit. Welcome to the Knicks Film School Postgame Show, presented by BetUS, where I'm here to talk about a completely normal basketball game that I have already run out of words to describe. Okay then, that happened. Hey, the Knicks won, and you know why that's great? Because it's better than the alternative. And if I had to sit with that shit burger for the next 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 days on my annual pilgrimage to sunny Florida, God help me, there would have been hell to pay. But I don't have to, because the minivan, well, one of those automatic doors got stuck. And the Knicks live to tell the tale by a final score, can't write it, of 149-148 over the Atlanta Hawks. What an absolute shit show of a game. I could try to talk about that one sensibly, but I don't know what good it would do. Let's start here. I'm gonna try to be coherent. It's not gonna work, but I'm gonna try. As I just walked a moat into my office here, pacing back and forth for the last roughly half hour. Sometimes you just got to find a way to win. And it's funny, I was writing a newsletter for next week earlier today, in which I talk about what's at stake for the rest of the season. What are the things that matter? What are the things that we're looking for? Because as I wrote, almost regardless of the outcome of this game, this is going to be the theme of Monday's newsletter, that like there's place in the standing is all but secured. It would take a complete collapse by them. Not that this team has ever collapsed before. It would take a complete collapse by them over the course of the rest of the season. And like the Indiana Pacers or the Milwaukee Bucks catching, complete fire, for them to be anything less than the 3 seed. So I was like, well, what matters? And like, had they lost this game, I probably would have gotten up here and talked about how at the end of the day, I don't think that there's much negative to take from this game in terms of the big picture. Obviously, this defense could not stop anything or anyone for really like starting late in the second quarter, going on through the entirety of the third quarter when they gave up, I think, 40-something points, and down the stretch of the game in the fourth quarter, they couldn't get any stops. And that would have been part, like if you were going to have a big picture takeaway, I think that would have been the closest thing to it. And even that, I would have gone up here and said, and I'm going to get up here and say, second night of a back-to-back, this group of guys has given all of themselves over the first 54 games of this season. Am I going to kill them for having absolutely nothing left? Like nothing left. In the final game before they're about to go and get a break, finally. No, I wouldn't have killed them for that. People would have killed them for that. Putting aside the last 10 seconds of regulation, people would have killed them for that. I would have tried to take a kinder approach. All that being said, I talked last night about character and grit and being able to win games when you're not supposed to win them, when you don't have it in the way that you traditionally have it. And when they went down 5 at the beginning of the overtime period, I mean, aside from being apoplectic, I was already, I obviously had conceded defeat at that point, because they could not stop the Hawks at all until they did. And were there a couple of buckets after LeVert hit that three to send the team up by 5 in overtime? Yeah, there were a couple of buckets. But I thought at least this version of the team, and I'm sure I have a feeling the name Mitchell Robinson is going to come up at some point in the conversation tonight. For them to give up only, I can't believe I'm saying only, but for them, it's only 7 points in the final 4 minutes of the overtime period after what they had allowed up until that point, and digging deeper than I thought they had the ability to dig, and pulling out a win because you made just enough defensive stops and got some turnovers, and you found a way. You found a way to get it done and get, one fewer stop, and we would be having a very different post game. One more Atlanta make, we would be having a very different post game. They got just enough to eke this one out. And I think it's fitting in some ways, in many ways actually, that this is how the last game before the All-Star break ended, because if this freaking night that we just experienced doesn't perfectly encapsulate the season that this team has had, I don't know what could. They have had, over the first 53 games, including tonight, moments of absolute brilliance, moments where you thought there's not a defense in the world that is going to be able to stop this team. And you got it in so many different ways tonight. You got it from Jalen Brunson coming out of the gate saying, oh, you think you're going to stop me? I got other ideas. You got it from Karl-Anthony Towns putting forth a scoring effort in the second and third quarters that you could watch NBA basketball for years and not see a player do what he did as effortlessly as he did it. A couple of the plays took a little bit more effort when he was just throwing up everything at the rim and it was going in. So that was beautiful. And they did it with passing. How many beautiful passes did this Knicks team have to cutters and other opportunities that the gravity of their best players opened up all over the court? So we've seen all that over the course of the season. We even saw some moments of defense throughout this game. But what else have we seen this year? We have seen moments where it doesn't look like they can stop anybody. And we saw some of those moments in this game. And more than anything, this team, I think, for a lot of people out there, and it's the tide has started to turn a little bit over the last several weeks. This team has left some folks feeling a little empty, a little wanting more, because there is something about them that it's just not adding up to what people felt like they got from last year's team. I've gone back to this theme over and over again because I think it is the most relevant overarching theme of this season, is the differences between this team and last year's team. Higher ceiling, lower floor. And if that last 10 seconds of the game didn't fully encapsulate what a lot of people have been feeling over the course of this season, that there's just something a little bit off with this team that they can't fully get behind, I don't know what could have done it better. And we have to talk about it. I mean, I would love to bury it and never talking about it again for the rest of my life. I'm going to go through it quick and then we can move on. It started with Precious Achiuwa, who we're going to talk about. He was absolutely one of the stars of the game. I think he has an argument for being you could actually argue that Precious was not better than Towns, because that was just too good of an offensive performance. And honestly, Brunson, what he did down the stretch was pretty incredible too. He was absolutely the third best Knick at worst. Shout out to Campaign, who is a part of that conversation as well. But on that play, Precious Achiuwa falls asleep. Should have never allowed George Niang to get that three off, followed by Karl-Anthony Towns. Again, that is the best offensive first half or pre-All-Star break part of the season that I have ever seen from a Knick. Watching this team for over 30 years, I've never seen a player have a better start to a season before an All-Star break than Karl-Anthony Towns just did. And yet, there are moments where you realize why, in part, mostly had to do with money, but in part why Minnesota was like, yeah, we're okay getting out of this business. And that pass, an inexplicable pass in that moment, was one of them. And then followed, I'm not going to kill Towns for not being able to get the board. He played last night. The guy's played 1,000,000 minutes. I would guess he played close to 50 minutes tonight. 47 minutes. I'm not going to get on him for not having the legs to grab that rebound. And then Josh Hart committing a foul there, which absolutely reminded me of the foul that he committed on Kobe White at the end of that Bulls game, which I was lucky enough to be in person to see that. So all these little things, and you had to have 3 or 4 different things go wrong in order for that game to get to overtime, and sure enough, it did. But, and this is where I'm gonna hang my hat on this tonight. You did not let that define you. And I think if we are really going analogy to the season as a whole, as we enter into the final third, the stretch run, the run that will tell us what kind of team we have here as we enter a playoffs with real aspirations. Are they going to be able to live up to those aspirations? Or are they going to fall short? I think if you're a believer, you are a believer because you think that that's something special that last year's team had and that we've been starting to see signs of over the course of the last 2-3 weeks. I think you saw it in that overtime. Because a team does not win a game like that without having something to them, without having some shit to them. And this team has some shit to them. They get punched, they get knocked down, they pick themselves back up. Like last year's team when no game was ever over, it's the same thing with this year's team. No game is ever over with them. Or at least they don't ever think it is. So, yeah, you're damn right I'm coming out of this one a hell of a lot more positive than negative, despite all the things that we can get on them for getting into that situation to begin with. I still can't fully wrap my mind around what we just saw, but I'm going to go try to through some specifics, and then I'm sure we're going to have a goodly amount of super chat, so I don't want to spend too long here at the top. Karl-Anthony Towns, I kind of already said my piece about Karl-Anthony Towns. I'm just going to read off his final stat line. 44 points on 25 shots. 7 of 10 from behind the arc from your 7-foot center. 9 of 11 from the line. I wonder how many centers in NBA history has had 40-point games where they took 10 threes and got to the line 10 times, at least 10 times, and had 10 rebounds. Also 7 turnovers. That's part of the conversation here too. Also 7 turnovers, even in the first half, the second quarter, as he was going, like there were some turnovers that made you scratch your head. So that's part of the resume too. Probably keeps him from getting an A- if we're looking ahead to Benji's grade book. But in an utterly unreal performance from Karl-Anthony Towns. They didn't go to Towns on the fourth quarter. I think that's because he was gassed. I think that's because he was absolutely gassed. I thought he started to get gassed in the second quarter, to be honest with you. And the fact that he came out and did what he did in the third, I thought showed an immense amount of will on his part and just an absolute determination to do whatever the team needed him to do to get a win. So big shout out to Karl-Anthony Towns. Jalen Brunson, I mean, what can you say? 36 points on 21 shots. He got to the line 10 times, made 7, missed there in the fourth quarter. Luckily, it did not come back to bite them in the ass at the end of the day. 8 assists, 3 turnovers. You take that any day of the week. Came up big, got them off to the right foot, on the right foot, came up big when they needed him the most. Dyson Daniels got him a few times, but I mean, if we're doing talk about a game where I had 5 different plays that I was convinced would be the autograph signature moment of the game. It was the Cat 3 that put him up 124 to 118. Then it was the Jalen Brunson 3 over Dyson Daniels that put him up by 4. Then it was the JB Midi over Dyson Daniels that put him up by 4 again. Then it was the Precious Achiuwa putback. We're going to get to Precious Achiuwa, but ultimately we got to give the autograph signature moment of the game to the game-stealing bucket. Effectively, that's what it ended up being, to make the score 149 to 148. Again, it's like a fake score. Teams that I've said this before, teams that fancy themselves title contenders, you got to have one of those guys. You're just not going to win anything if you don't have one of those guys. The Knicks have one of those guys. Are there 5 of them in the league? Are there 6? Are there 7? Are there 4? I don't know how many there are, but he's one of them. And he proved it yet again tonight. I would not be surprised in the least if when we are sitting there at the end of the season, he takes home the Clutch Player of the Year award. I looked up the statistics earlier today. He is as good a clutch player as there is in the league. Nikola Jokic is up there. Darius Garland has some great clutch numbers. But when you put forth the volume, there is, and I checked this today, and I'm sure it's just as true now, there is no player who is scoring more clutch points on a per clutch minute basis in the NBA this season than Jalen Brunson. And the fact that he is shooting that much on volume in clutch situation and making as high a percentage of the shots that he is taking is a testament to him. But the great thing about Jalen Brunson is you can't commit extra attention to him, because if you do that, he's going to find the pass like he did to Precious Achiuwa on the penultimate basket in overtime that put him up 147-144. So spectacular ending to the game from Jalen Brunson. Even though, man, talk about a funny trend. That's the other thing I was looking up earlier today. His on-off numbers are not where you would expect them to be, or not where you would want them to be. And tonight in a game they won by 1, he was a -11. And part of that has to do with campaign. Let's save Precious for last. Let's talk a little bit about campaign. Tweeted it out today. That's your autograph signature moment of the game, by the way. Check autograph tomorrow. I'm going to have one final video up before the break. And if you don't have the autograph app, download it. Use code KFS. Get rewarded for your fandom. Part of the reason why Brunson's plus minus was not where you want it is campaigns was awesome. And campaign had a stretch at the beginning of the fourth quarter that really should have sealed the game for the Knicks, where they went on a 9-0 run. They went up 113 to 101. They looked like they were about to pull away. And obviously we know what transpired from there, but it was another special game from campaign. Landry Shamet contributed for a second night in a row, which is not a sentence that I thought I would be saying anytime soon. Certainly not a sentence I thought I'd be saying 48 hours ago, or I guess 48 hours ago. And so good job by him. Mikal Bridges, another quiet night. I got to think of everybody on the team, of everybody in the league. I don't know that there's anybody in the NBA that needs a break more than Mikal Bridges. And so the fact that the volume isn't quite there, he's not taking too many shots, missed that midi in overtime. Thank God it didn't come back to bite him in the ass. Still went 5 for 8. His defense, we could talk about his defense. Defense was not great tonight. Again, he's dead tired. I'm not going to kill him for it. Go sleep for a week, please, Mikal Bridges. Don't wake up. I don't know how many hours are in a week. 168 hours. Sleep for like 157 of them, please. Take what do you take to go to sleep? An Ambien? Yeah, take one of those, please. Josh Hart had some Josh Hart moments. 18, 10, and 6. Certainly a Josh Hart stat line. Most key stat for Josh Hart, and he had a couple in overtime. 8 for 8 from the free throw line. Massive for him. Deuce, we hope he's okay. Gave it what he could. Didn't have it. Huck Porty. This is one of those games that make you feel like he's not ready for prime time. And we're going to end with Precious Achiuwa before we get to the Super Chats, because I think it's fair to say this was the game of Precious Achiuwa's career. Is it? I think I don't know if this was actually his career high. He may have tied his career high. He was right there at the end. I know they mentioned it. Finished with 26 points, 12 of 16 from the field, had 8 rebounds. Probably like to see a little bit more than 8 rebounds in 42 minutes, but, fine. Look, we've talked before about who's the most important player on this Knicks team. And that conversation usually comes back to Jalen Brunson and Karl-Anthony Towns in some order. But there were moments this year, more than a few moments, where I thought that the answer to that question was OG Anunoby, because of the combination of he's your strongest defensive player. He gives you some nice size. You can't just close him out and expect that he's not going to be able to attack the closeout appropriately. And, of course, he could hit the corner 3 at a prolific rate, or he's been doing it for pretty much his whole career, and the corner 3 has started to come around before this injury. He's at least in the conversation for the Knicks' most indispensable player. So when he went out and Precious Achiuwa had to step in, and there has been a lot of talk, and we're not going to – don't worry, my Tibbs my Tibbs soapbox is in the cleaner tonight. There's been a lot of talk about who should start and should Miles McBride start. Now, obviously tonight Miles McBride didn't have it, so it's kind of a moot point here. But to say that Precious, and specifically not Precious himself, but Precious's ability to contribute to winning basketball has been a bit maligned of late because of the feeling that he hasn't given quite enough on defense and he is stymieing them on offense. For him to go into the break and really put all of that behind him and come out with this sort of effort in, again, 42 minutes, that they desperately needed. And even as he was having arguably the game of his life, you saw from Tibbs the compromises that Tibbs is making, because in the fourth quarter there, and I thought it was the correct decision, to be very clear, he stuck with Cam Payne even after Jalen Brunson came back in, because he wanted the shooting. He wanted a little bit more pestersome presence on the defensive end. And then eventually it got to a couple minutes left and it just wasn't working as well as it needed to. So he went back to Precious and didn't close out on Niang as well as he needed to. That one play certainly, especially since they got the win, should not define his game tonight and will not define his game tonight. Thank God. So awesome game from Precious Achiuwa. Look, I'm like completely spent mentally, emotionally, probably physically after the first 2/3 of the season. I feel it. I need this all-star break, and I'm sitting here talking in front of a freaking microphone on my fat ass while I enjoy some very nice liquor. Thank you, Ray Marcano. I can only imagine how that team was feeling when Brunson wasn't able to, when really it's probably when Trae Young made both of those free throws, or even when Trae Young was going to the line and they knew what was in store and that they were going to have to go an extra 5 minutes on this thing. Imagine how you felt as a fan. I know how I felt. Now imagine how they felt on those tired legs after giving. I mean, say what you want about their defense, and it was not good down the stretch of the game. Second half, the whole thing, they gave it everything they had. Everything they had. Hawks got a bunch of offensive rebounds. Knicks were a little careless with the ball, 18 turnovers, all the things. It wasn't for lack of effort, and it wasn't for lack of caring. And for them to find it in themselves after just emptying the gas tank and come out with that win, man, coming up with some big defensive plays in the overtime period. Cannot say enough about this team. Cannot say enough about these guys. Cannot say enough about the culture that they've built. And it is why, for as imperfect as they may be, you will not convince me that this team can't contend for a title in a few months. So let's end the monologue on that note. As again, I'm so brain dead, I didn't even pull up my ad reads, but I'm gonna go ahead and do that right now because we got to pay the bills. Going into the break, if I could find it. We're gonna hear a quick word from our good friends. They've been friends before. They're friends again at Rocket Money. It's the start of a new year. It is the perfect time to get organized, set goals. Hey, what's a goal? Not blowing a 6-point lead with 10 seconds to go. That's a nice goal. And prioritize what matters most. For me, a top priority is indeed financial wellness, which feels more important than ever as, I go to the store and pay $11 for a box of freaking cereal. So yeah, Rocket Money kind of comes in handy. It's a personal finance app that helps you find and cancel your unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spending, and helps lower your bills so you can grow your savings. Makes it easy to stay organized, makes it easy to keep track of everything they need to keep track of, and most importantly, it makes it easy to make sure you are not getting taken advantage of by people and companies that think you're just not going to notice this charge or that charge on your bill. That's what Rocket Money does great. They've saved a total of $500 million in canceled subscriptions, saving members up to $740 a year when using all the app's premium features. You can cancel your unwanted subscriptions and reach your financial goals faster with Rocket Money. Just go to rocketmoney.com/gameon today. That's rocketmoney.com/gameon. rocketmoney.com/gameon. My God, I have a lot of texts that I can't read now, but I will get to them. I promise. Shout out to everybody. Just shout out to everybody. Okay, here we go. I got to finish this water so I can pour some of this bourbon in a cup. Parrish Duggar, of course, clueless, chose to challenge the Hart shove call. I was perplexed by that. You gotta be a little kinder here, Parrish. Clueless. Again, we value word choice here at Knicks Film School. We value tone and being kind individuals. We're all kind here. We try to be kind. Kind of try to spread kindness. I did think it was a bit of a mistake. Here's the thing, Parrish, and this is why I'm gonna at least give you a play devil's advocate here. They've had the best challenge staff in the league over the course of the year. And just in case you're wondering, Parrish, it's not the coach's call. There is a person specifically on the bench, I forget what his name is, but this is his only job, who looks at plays and determines, is there something worth the challenge? They are better than this than every team in the league. I'm going to repeat that, Parrish. They are better than this than any team in the league. And Tibbs trusts the person whose job it is to make that call. Ultimately, yes, the head coach is the one that has to signal for the challenge or not, but the person on the bench is the one who knows what they're looking for. I can't sit here and tell you what they were looking at. I would imagine they thought it was a foul on Niang, and that's what was going to get called. But I can't sit here and tell you. It was a little bit perplexing in the moment, but if I'm giving anybody a pass tonight, it's the guy who determines the challenges because they've been pretty perfect all year. Thanks, Parrish. What a way to start off after that one. Armand Bernadette, complete garbage performance by everyone but Cat. So I'm guessing this one came after the game went into overtime, maybe down the stretch of the fourth quarter. Yeah, I think this is one of those ones where the emotions may have gotten the best of you, Armand. I'm not going to kill you for it. My emotions were certainly running high when that game was going into overtime. Were there players who could have done certain things better in this game? Without question. Again, I talked about Mikal Bridges' pick and roll defense. If you want to get on Brunson for not maybe trying to be a little bit more of a facilitator in the second half of that game, you could get on him for that. I frankly can't get on Precious for anything. I thought Precious played an outstanding basketball game. Same thing with Towns. You want to get on, we talked about Bridges. Josh Hart, I didn't notice anything with Josh Hart. I thought Josh Hart was pretty good as well. He didn't pop like Josh Hart usually pops throughout a lot of this game, but when you look at his final stat line, you're like, it's pretty good. But like collectively, I think that's what it really was. It was, I can't get on Campaign. I know that. I'm not even going to get on Landry Shamet. Like, that's the thing. Who am I getting on? You want to, and the stuff that you want to get on, they're not getting rebounds. They're not navigating the pick and roll. They're turning the ball over too much. All that stuff to me is evidence of a team that was dead tired, that played last night, and that has just absolutely exhausted themselves over the course of 53 games. So I am going to be very forgiving. I am a naturally forgiving person when it comes to this basketball team and things in general. But I understand your emotions were riding high there. So totally cool. Thanks, Armin. Don't bother me. I'm busy. Oh, my goodness. I'm bracing myself. Although you've been very kind for really the whole year, busy. 2 timeout. Players have to think about playing, getting open, getting the ball in. Right in front of you, you as the coach watching the team have to have a hard time get the ball in. What are you thinking about? So you're saying Tibbs should have called the timeout there? It's a fair question, Busy. It's a very fair question. I correct me if I'm wrong. Please correct me. Don't pay for another super chat. Like, put it in the regular chat, and Mark can get it up here. I don't know that I've ever seen a coach call a timeout on an inbounds like unless it's an inbounds, unless it's before they even attempt the inbounds. Then sometimes the coaches call a timeout. If you're going to get on Tibbs for not just call, like the second that three went down, call the timeout. If you want to get on Tibbs for that, get on Tibbs for that. That's completely valid. I wonder if, and again, this is devil's advocate, and again, I'm maybe reaching here. I wonder if he was thinking, don't let the Hawks defense get set. Don't let the Hawks defense get set where they can make substitutions into the game and where they can get all of their premium defenders on the court and just allow Cat, like, bang, bang, Cat gets the ball. Now, why did Cat go for the ball? You want to tell me also that Tibbs should have seen the Cat went the ball and his life flashed before his eyes and he should have said, oh, my God, I don't want Cat making that pass. Timeout. You could tell me that too. There is a part of me that wonders if there is a part of this that is showing trust in your player. I think that part should be overruled in the interest of making sure you come out of the damn game with a win. It's very fair, Busy. It's very fair. Again, I think there's always two sides to the coin here. Obviously, the side that was not chosen here is the side that looks an awful lot better in retrospect and to see what happens. So, yeah. Thanks, Busy. Appreciate you. Parrish Duggar with another one. Tibbs actually fails to call timeout. Here's another one. To inbound the ball at half court with 7 seconds left. He makes me miserable with his lack of attention to detail. I would argue that there's no coach in the league that has more of an attention to detail. If anything, you want to tell me that makes incorrect decisions at times. But that's every coach. Again, I'm going to refer you back to Erik Spoelstra. Erik Spoelstra, who is universally acknowledged as the best coach in basketball, had a moment where he quite literally cost his team a basketball game earlier this season because of a timeout issue. He actually he thought he had a timeout. He didn't have, imagine that happened. Imagine Tibbs called a timeout that he didn't have. Like, you'd be running him out of town yesterday. And it's not just, that's the first one that comes to mind. There was a game the Nets won a couple of weeks ago over the Houston Rockets. Oh, that's right. Ime Udoka. I don't know what the timeout situation was at the end of that game. If he had a timeout or not, I'm figuring they did. But even if he didn't, allowing the Nets to score, I think it was like 5 points or 6 points, whatever it was in the final 8 seconds or something. That's Ime Udoka. Guy might win Coach of the Year this year. Again, widely regarded as one of the best coaches in the league. You watch basketball for long enough, you're going to see coaches maybe have moments where they regret it. Again, in this instance, obviously in retrospect, goes without saying. Should have called timeout. But hindsight's always 20/20. Thanks, Parrish. And I'm sorry it makes you miserable. I hope that's not true. If a coach is taking away your ability to enjoy a basketball team, I think, you have some questions you maybe want to ask yourself. Deadwards 604. What's going on, Deadwards? Maybe we could cut down on the minutes. Obviously not tonight with the overtime, so that we could sneak a practice in there somewhere. So sloppy tonight. This is a kind of an eye of the beholder thing. Were they sloppy tonight because they need a practice? Or were they sloppy tonight because they were on the second night of a back-to-back and, like me, and probably like a lot of you, they were just absolutely mentally drained and exhausted and not at their best selves? I mean, we could go through here. I'll pull it up right now. We could go through the turnovers and who had what. Obviously, Karl-Anthony Towns, I mentioned him. He had 7 turnovers. A lot of those were in the first half, like kind of on drives, not kind of paying attention. I didn't personally see a lot of his turnovers as ones of the sort that you're talking about here. I will say, let me just pull it up right now. End of the third quarter, the Knicks had 13 turnovers, which means in the fourth quarter and overtime, and Brunson had one or two down the stretch there. So they finished the game with 18. So that means in the fourth quarter and overtime, they had 5 turnovers. That's it's not great. I'm not going to go crazy about that. I'm looking at it right now. Achua had no turnovers. Bridges had 1. Mentioned Towns had 7. Brunson had 3. Okay. Hart had 3. Handles the ball a lot. Some of them were a little and then there were some just freak weird plays. Like there was a play I remember where Cam Payne was trying to get the ball to Josh Hart and threw it to him, and the ball just bounced off of Josh Hart's hands and into a Hawks' hands, and it ended up being a score. I lost track of how many moments there were like that. Huck Porty had a stupid turnover, offensive foul in his 2 minutes of play. But Cam Payne had 1 in 15 minutes. Shaman had 1 in 15 minutes. McBride didn't have 1. I don't know. I think this, again, to the extent that these things were there, I don't. Yeah, it's sloppiness. But it's, to me, the why was it sloppy is more, interesting, because you look at the team as a whole. I mean, I'll pull it up right now. I'm pretty sure they're top 4 or 3 or 4 or 5 in terms of not turning the ball over league wide. They are 4th. So the only 3 teams, interestingly enough, stingier than them, wouldn't you know it, Boston, Oklahoma City, and Cleveland. So if you don't think taking care of the ball is important, pretty notable that the 3 best teams in the league have the 3 best turnover rates in the league. And then I'm pretty sure the Knicks are the 4th best team in the league. I'll pull that up right now. I'm pretty sure they have the 4th most wins in the league at the very least. Yeah, well, not a good night tonight, but overall pretty good. Yeah. Knicks, tied for the 4th most wins in the league. Back to 5th in net rating. Okay. Thanks, Edwards. Dennis Disabato. Too much Brunson isolation in overtime. Need to use more clock. I don't know that I agree with you with the clock. I actually thought there were some possessions where the one that really I was like, oh my God, they're using too much clock here and nothing's happening, is the one where Precious leaked in. And I have to think, and that was the penultimate basket of the game, make it 147, 144. I have to think that was something that they knew that they could get. Maybe they had seen something on the tape. Again, it's it all goes into the conversation. They're the best prepared team in the league every night to go out and play. But Brunson in overtime, I'm just going to pull him up right now. So he missed a driving layup. The Cat got the first score of overtime was a Cat putback. How you doing? Boy, oh boy, was he good tonight. My goodness. Then Brunson got fouled, made both free throws. Then Brunson made a 2 to put him ahead. I think that was a hit ahead. So that was on the break. Then turnover, I think, to your point, Dyson Daniels. Then the beautiful assist to Achua. And then the 19-footer. So overall, I would say his overtime was pretty good. I think other than the first possession of overtime where it ended in a Hart 25-footer, I didn't love the offensive process on that play. And then the very next possession, it was a layup that ended up in an offensive rebound. So you want to call it a Kobe assist. I thought just the first play of overtime, and maybe they were still deflated. That was the only possession where I was like, this is not a good possession. And then maybe the one where he tried to go one-on-one but listen, tried to go one-on-one with Dyson Daniels a lot down the stretch, and in overtime, most of the time worked out in his favor. So give the man credit where credit is due. Thank you, Dennis. Jesse M. I fully expected that shot to go in. LOL. Phew. There was no doubt in my mind the shot was going in. The Niang shot with time expiring. And it's funny. As the shot went up, I looked at the time, and as soon as I saw that there was no time left, that it was all zeros on the clock, I'm like, oh, that shot's going in. Yeah, if you could have paused, if someone would have, if I paused the TV and someone came to me and they're like, you can wager any amount of money that this shot is going in, you get 50-50 odds, even odds. What would you wager that it's going in? In the moment, I think I probably would have bet $500. Maybe more, maybe 1,000. And to be very clear, I do not have $500 to lose. I don't have $5 to lose, for being honest. Definitely don't have 500. But I would have bet 500 that it was going in if you paused it in that moment. Thanks, Jesse. Dan Hidalgo. I don't know what that was, but let's not do it again. Oh, man. Only this team. I just don't. As soon. And it's again, I'll take you guys behind the scenes because to me, it's funny. I saw Mark's on the ones and twos tonight. Mark Roca. Shout out to Mark. He tweeted something about the post game, and I should actually look, Mark, for what was the tenor of your tweet, because I didn't actually even read it. I just saw that you included the link for the post game show. Oh no, you didn't do anything. You just said don't forget after the game, join. Yeah. See what he has to say. Okay. So it's not like you presumed the game was over. So good job by you. Here's one.
I'm going to say that I'm very careful not to do that.
So here's the thing.
That specific purpose. And thankfully, that was the right call this time around.
Here's the thing. I saw it and I was like, oh, let me quote tweet this. And I in all caps, I wrote, we are getting turned. TURNTD. Because I think that's how the kids spell it.
I wrote it. I wouldn't know.
And I should. I actually don't know.
Yeah.
And I wrote it, and I swear I was about to hit post. And I'm like, you know what?
Mm-hmm.
Let me just. There's 18 seconds left. What's the harm in waiting until the 18 seconds has passed? And then the Niang 3 went in. And I didn't instantly have flashbacks to Philly, Game 5 in Philly. But when the 3 went in, I was like, oh, that's not good. And then the amount got stolen and Dyson Daniels got fouled. And at that moment, I was like, oh, shit.
Yeah.
Because I was figuring, okay, well, he's going to make 2. And then even if we get the ball inbounded, they're going to foul. And even if we make 2, Trae Young's going to hit 3. We're going to just go to overtime. And then everything else happened. But and then with Trae, when Trae Young got fouled and was going to the line, that's when I had the flashbacks to Game 5 against Philly.
Yeah.
So now what you want?
All right, let me hop back off. Oh, one thing I just want to let everybody know. There's a little bit of a funky thing going on with the super chats tonight. So far, all are accounted for, but I'm doing my best behind the scenes to make sure that everybody's going to be everybody who sent in a super chat will be accounted for by the end of the night. So anyway, carry on. I'm out.
Appreciate that, Mark. All Mark just did right now was remind me that I need to get a haircut before I go to Florida. And I don't know when the hell I'm going to have time to do that. So I got to figure that out. Thanks, Dan. Bill Peterfriend. What's going on, Bill? Lucky, sloppy, undeserving. I'll friggin' take it. 36 and 18 at the break. Bottom line. Did they get lucky? Was it sloppy? Yes, it was sloppy. I gotta tell you, Bill, I know we don't see eye to eye a lot, so I guess it's maybe not surprising that I'm gonna push back on you here. You win a game like that, you deserve to win a game like that. I don't think that was luck. You go down by 5 in overtime after that kind of collapse at the end of the game. That's not luck. It wasn't luck that they went up by 18. It was a lot of skill. Like, if you want to tell me that, well, the only reason that they were up by 18 to begin with isn't because they outplayed the Hawks, it's because they had more skill than the Hawks, and they have 2 all-star starters, and the Hawks have 1 injury replacement all-star, and that's why they were up big, but they weren't outplaying the Hawks. They were, the Hawks were defending as well as they could defend. Just nothing worked against Towns when he was getting after it. And the Knicks weren't cleaning up where they needed to clean up. Again, offensive rebounds, turnovers, those 2 things more than anything. And the pick and roll defense really starting, towards the end of the second quarter, it got really bad. So I agree with you from a certain perspective, but listen, the best teams in the NBA, why do they ultimately win? They ultimately win because they have more talent. So I'm not going to sit here and feel bad about the fact that the Knicks were in the original position that they were in more because of their talent than how well they played. And I am going to give them credit for persevering and pulling it out. And that's the other part of it, which is such a shame. It's the real shame of the last 10 seconds is because, like, they did well to get it to that point. Like, that was not handed to them. Like, the Hawks were punching and punching and punching, and like this was a 4-point game. Yeah, it was a 4-point game a minute into the second half. And just to really kind of bring this point home and talk about the thing that I think really people care about more than anything is the game that had everybody jumping off of ledges in the in-season tournament. That game, I'm looking it up right now because I don't want to screw it up and get it wrong. So funny. The final score of that game was 108 to 100. Slightly different from this one. But that game, the Knicks were up by 7 points at the break. This game, they were up by 8 points at the break. And you know what happened in the third quarter of that game? In the third quarter of that game, the Atlanta Hawks outscored the Knicks 34 to 18. Now, did the Knicks cover themselves in glory in the third quarter of this game? No. But they did not let go of the rope. Nothing close to it. And coming off of a second night of a back-to-back to be able to stick with it and hang around and hang around and hang around and maintain the lead and not give up the lead until literally the last, 2 seconds of the game, I think that shows growth in this team. And I think it really shows you that they are progressing and that they have what it takes to potentially do some things. Thank you, Bill. Jesse Tutman. Get that right. I could use a break after that one. We all can, man. We all can. It's just, yeah. Oh, goodness gracious. Thank you, Jesse. TJ2K. What did the basket say to Trae Young? No dice. Listen, man. Trae Young's a great player. I've like called him a lot of names, which I don't feel bad about because it's fun and he's looks like a mole rat. But the thing that bothers me is that I've been unkind to Trae Young's, maybe not his game, but his ability to be a prominent figure on a team that could really do some serious winning in the league. And you watch him have a game like this, and you wonder, like, are there 10 more offensively talented players in the league? 10, 12 more? I mean, the guy had 19 assists, 38 points, 19 assists. He also had 8 turnovers. And I think if you're going to argue that, no, he's not in that conversation for the top 10, or at least he's not in the top 10. Maybe he's in the conversation, but he's not in the top 10. I think it's because the combination of turnovers, shot selection, and the defense, obviously. Although the defense has gotten better. Give him that. Defense has gotten better. Shot selection, the turnovers, that stuff still bugs me sometimes. And I think And again, I want to give the Knicks defense credit here. I think in the overtime period, let's see here. I feel like I'm looking at it. It doesn't show that he had any turnovers in the overtime period. I could have sworn that he was involved in some plays where the Knicks got themselves a turnover, but obviously I am mistaken because I'm not seeing anything here. So, wait, no, hold on. Oh no, here it is. Trae Young bad pass. 3:36 remaining. Mikal Bridges steals. Trae Young bad pass. Karl-Anthony Towns steals. So yeah, Trae Young 2 turnovers in overtime. Not what you want. Not what you want. And those turnovers are what let the Knicks back in the game. You know, if you're a Knicks fan, you're probably, I would think, a little annoyed at the Towns pass, although people are more annoyed at the coach, which I understand. If you're a Hawks fan, like you gotta own up to the fact that your boy, for as amazing as he was, those 2 turnovers were big. They had the game won. Thanks, TJ2K. Iceman Sham, what's going on? I aged 20 years watching this game. My God, fuck, man. 41 going on 61. I need, what do I need? I need sun. I need warm weather. I need a nice glass of wine. Yeah. And I need a week off. I think we all do. Thanks, Iceman Shan. Appreciate you. And Rich, what's going on, Rant? And how you doing, buddy? Thank you for the very generous contribution. We appreciate it here at Knicks Film School. Trae Young's look has gone from edgy to scruffy to homeless. I think he's always looked homeless myself. That's just me. But if you want to give him edgy at the start, that's very generous of you, Ant. That's very generous of you, Ant. I will not be going there. But he was damn good in the Castaway movie. Good. That was good. I like that. That was very good. Hashtag fuck Trae old. Yeah, man. He is. I never thought anybody would live up to the Reggie. What Reggie got to, and I think it would take probably multiple additional playoff series between the Hawks and the Knicks for it to get to that level. I mean, the Pacers and Knicks played, what was it, 4 or 5 playoff series, something like that, over the maybe a bunch. Let me think. If they played one early, then 94, then 95, then not 96, not 97. They played 98. They played in 99. And then they played in 2000. Yeah, so they played 6 times. 6 playoff series. Think about that. So, yeah, I misspoke. He is not on Reggie's level yet. We got a ways to go, but I think he's the closest. I think he's the closest since Reggie to really, truly, with all due respect to Joel Embiid, but Joel Embiid sucks. And Joel Embiid doesn't come up big in the biggest moments. Joel Embiid shrinks into someone half the size of Trae Young. And he's just an awful human being. Trae Young seems like a nice guy. He just looks like a mole rat. Thanks, and appreciate you. Drew P, what's going on, Drew? Love JB and Cat. Our defense is fundamentally broken. I would caution you, Drew. I would caution you from reading too much into anything that you saw in this game when it comes to the Knicks defense for 2 massive reasons. 3, actually. 2.5. Number 1, second night of a back-to-back. Thought they gave it a lot in the first half, and they really just ran out of gas. Actually, 4 reasons. Second night of back-to-back. Long season so far for them with, again, we don't need to go through it again, but these guys, Mikal Bridges in particular. Mikal Bridges, the stat that's the craziest stat is the miles run or feet distance run, however they measure it. They measure it in different denominations. He has moved, traveled, ran, whatever you want to call it, more distance than anybody in the league. Tonight, he did not offer much resistance as you got into the second half when it came to the pick and roll, and it put Cat in an impossible position. Which is why I'm not really blaming Cat too much. So that's the second thing. Third thing, no OG Anunoby. Guy's pretty good. And fourth thing, effectively no Deuce McBride tonight, who I think would have helped a lot. And if you want to go for a fifth thing, we could talk about Mitchell Robinson, who I'm surprised his name has not come up, but maybe this is the opportunity to bring him up, which is fundamentally broken to me, says can't be fixed. Well, I would argue that between the players that were injured tonight and the guy that's coming back, I have hopes that it's not going to become the Oklahoma City Thunder, but I still maintain hope that this thing could get to a passable level. So, yeah. Thanks, Drew. Appreciate you. Colin Reardon, what's going on, Colin? Knicks make stops more valuable than diamonds. LOL. I mean, they did in this game, gave up 41 points in the third quarter, 36 points in the fourth quarter. Obviously 11 points in overtime, but like, you get up until the last 18 seconds of the fourth quarter, you've given up 30 points in the fourth, which, like, I wouldn't have gone crazy about. Those 6 points really put it over the top in more ways than one. But yeah, no, it's hard. And I think what makes it even harder is, and you saw it in the overtime, especially, the moments when they're at their best are when they could generate turnovers, which, like, duh. That's the same is true of any team in the league. The problem is they don't generate enough turnovers. Now, I'm not 100% sure if this is reflective of tonight. I'll cross-reference it with NBA stats. They are 15th in the league at generating turnovers. That's according to Cleaning the Glass. In terms of on NBA.com, which I know at least is going to be updated, even though it doesn't filter out garbage time, they are 17th. So they're actually a little bit worse on NBAstats.com. But that's, again, they've been trending in the right direction. That's not bad. That's when their defense looks at its best. And I also think it's much easier for them to generate turnovers when they have OG Anunoby on the floor. That's his specialty. That's what you want him to do. But look, we're talking about a defense that is now 18th in the league. That's not good enough. It's just not good enough. They need to be better than that. The question is, can they get there? And do you believe that they can get there? I believe that they can get to good enough. I understand if you have your doubts. Thanks, Colin. IMAK Legend. What's going on, IMAK? Deep breath. A win is a win. Now say it with me, Macri. Knicks record is 36-18. Each game they learn. Let's go, Knicks. I can't. This is why I can't sit here and be too down about a team that has 2 wins for every loss and that is entering the All-Star break with their best record in close to 30 years. Their best record since the last team that they had, that I think you could make an argument, a real argument that they could go all the way. I know some people think the 2012-13 team had it in them to go all the way. I don't know that I ever really believe that. The 96-97 team, I think that team maybe has a better argument. And that's the last time a Knicks team started off as well as this team has started off. So you could tell me whatever you want about they went all in and this is where they should be and all the yada, yada, yada. Man, there are NBA graveyards right now littered with best intentions and good ideas and all in moves that were like definitely supposed to work. Even if it costs us a lot, definitely supposed to work. And they just haven't worked anywhere in the realm of as well as this has worked thus far. So, for whatever issues they have, I am sitting here and saying, yeah, things are pretty good. Things are pretty good. Thank you, I am AK Legend. Appreciate you. Deadwords with another one. I still can't fathom how Trey looks in the mirror and says, yeah, this look works. I mean, what's the alternative? I guess he could shave his head, right? It's either that or the hair club for men. Those are the two options. I would guess those are the two options. Should Trey, I mean, when you think about it like that, he could probably get like a multi-million-dollar deal from the hair club for men. I don't know. Like, I'm being serious. I'm not being a dick. Yeah, I mean, I think it would get a lot of people over to his size, but that's me. What do I know? Thanks, Edwards. Yeah, we could do it. Let's take a quick break to hear a word from our friends at BetUS. By now, because I've been saying it, that BetUS also has a casino. If you like slots or live casino dealers, take advantage of my amazing sign-up bonus. It's 200% up to $5,000 or 250% for a crypto sign-up bonus up to $5,000. Get ready for a rush with the BetUS casinos. They feature generous promotions and tournaments that make every play even more rewarding. If you sign up now, make sure you use that promo code YouTube150 to receive a 150% bonus on your first deposit, as well as a 120% bonus on your next two deposits up to $2,000. Again, that promo code is YouTube150. Reminder, gambling involves risk. All forms of betting carry financial risk. It is down to you to make bets with or without the assistance of the information provided. Okie doke. My God, what a night. I can't believe this night. I can't believe this game actually happened. And it was not a figment of my imagination. Sam Garcia, F. Trey Young, now 7-17 against the Knicks. Look, man, he's. Did you include the playoffs record in that 7-17? I'm not trying to be contrarian here, but he is a guy that I will say has earned my respect. Joel Embiid has none of my respect. Tyrese Halliburton has a little bit of my respect. They needed to go to overtime. Speaking of teams that needed to go to overtime tonight, inexplicably, the Pacers needed to go to overtime tonight to beat the freaking Wizards. They were down big time, in that game. I don't know how I got talking about this. Oh, yeah, Tyrese Halliburton. Tyrese Halliburton has a little bit of my respect. Trey Young has my respect. The guy's hit some big shots. The guy's come through with some big moments. He looks like a creature from the Black Lagoon, but can't have it all. Thanks, Sam. All right, we had a busy super chat tonight. Here we go. Kevin Danishevsky. Hello, Kevin. That's going to be the most points, or that's got to be the most points by two Knicks in a game. Yeah, combined for 80. I know you did a little bit of research on this earlier tonight. It may be the most points the two Knicks have scored. I mean, the tricky part about this is like Brunson's had a lot of big scoring games over the last couple of years. Like, who was the second highest scorer in like those games, and did it get to above 80, which is what these two guys ended up with tonight. Did they end up with 80? Was it more than 80? My brain has just gone to complete shit. Yeah, it was 80. 44 for Cat, 36 for Brunson. I thought Tibbs pushed mostly the right buttons tonight with limited options. OG and Mitch on the way. Yeah, I mean, again, you want to complain about little things. You want to complain about not calling a timeout on the inbounds there. In terms of the rotations, I don't know how anybody could have all that much to complain about tonight. I thought he tried to go with as much spacing as humanly possible, given the constraints with the roster, with Deuce, obviously with no OG. Had Shaman in there running around with the starters in the first half. Obviously kept Payne in for an extended stretch there in the fourth quarter. But at the end of the day, for me, I think what I'm most impressed about with how the Knicks have pulled through and survived this stretch, again, like we're all sitting here, and again, I know there's a lot of frustrated people tonight, but OG Anunoby is a massively important player to this team. They have now been without OG Anunoby for 5 games. They have won 4 of those games. 2 road wins over the Raptors, who are playing well, and the Indiana Pacers, who were playing well, obviously didn't play well tonight. And then Houston at home, and then tonight at home against a good basketball team. The only loss was to Boston. So to be able to, I think, as a coach, adjust on the fly when one of your vital pieces goes down and figure out ways to make something that is obviously not an ideal situation be as ideal as it can be. And that's the other part of it where we talk about this stuff. Like when you're making this sort of adjustment and you have to put Precious Achiuwa in the starting lineup, or you make the decision to put Precious Achiuwa in the starting lineup, it may not look great in game 1 or game 2. What you want to see is that it looks better and better and better. And I thought tonight, like the offense, I mean, that lineup, I mean, I'll look it up now. I would venture to guess that the starting lineup tonight put up some pretty decent stats. Which I'm gonna see if I can get it up right now. But in the meantime, we go to the next super chat. Iceman Sham with another one. Knicks made too many errors, but loved the mental fortitude and the toughness to flip the pages going into overtime, being down 5. You have to love that. If you're a fan, how do you not love that? How do you not love that? I loved it. I was so beaten down. Like that, you know how I know I was beaten down? They were down 5. They scored. Towns got the putback. Then Brunson got the 2 free throws. And then they went ahead by 1 on, I forget what play they went ahead by 1 on. And even then, I was like super subdued. It was a Brunson fast break. Even then, I was like, I'm not getting excited yet. I was still like kind of sullen. And so again, give them credit. Okay. So let's see here. I will know 2 minutes. Yeah, this is tonight. So tonight, the starting lineup with Precious Achiuwa, and it played 24 minutes. They had 124.6 offensive rating, which is obviously very good, and 117.2 defensive rating. So, plus 7.3. That's good. That's a really good number. The best lineup tonight, or the best couple of lineups tonight, featured Towns, Payne, Bridges, Shamet, and one of them had Hart in it, and the other one had Achiuwa in it. So basically, Towns with Bridges, Payne and Shamet, the 2 bench guards, and a non-spacer, either Hart or Achiuwa. Both of those lineups played a total of 8 minutes tonight, and they were really, 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 really good. Again, only 8 minutes, but they were very good. I imagine that most of those were during the start of the fourth quarter. A lot of those minutes were at the start of the fourth quarter, probably. Anyway, thanks, Iceman Cham. Anthony Sixto, what's going on, Anthony? This win is designed for the Doomers to go cry. But in the end, they overcame the adversity and put away the underrated Hawks. All-star break, get healthy, 56 wins. I mean, what are they on pace for right now? to get my handy dandy calculator. Hey, they're on pace for 55. Maybe they get to 56. I was looking at the schedule earlier today. I don't know if you want to take time to go through the schedule later. We could do it before we get out of here. It's going to be a long one anyway. I'm not getting any sleep. Like, they got some tough games left. They got 5 games left against Boston and Cleveland. But I was looking at the schedule. Like, it's not easy, to be very clear. It's not easy. But it's not the bloodbath that I think when I originally looked at their after All-Star break schedule that I thought it might be. Like, they got to, and maybe that's just because I have more confidence in them now than I did earlier in the season. But, yeah, I don't think 56 wins is out of the question. And if we really want to get nuts and talk about things to shoot for, the last time, man, this team has only won they've only won more than 57 games twice. The year they won the first championship, and then the year they lost in the conference finals in 6 games to the Bulls, 92-93. Their next highest win total is 56, which they've done on 4 occasions. Second championship year, 93-94, the finals year, and then 96-97, which is where David Stern fucked them in the ass, and they lost to the Heat. So the fact that, like, we can even sit here and have a conversation about the possibility that they could get to 57 wins is pretty amazing. Pretty amazing. The Doomers, I don't really care what the Doomers are talking about right now. Thanks, Anthony. Dom Cappuccini. I hope you're happy tonight, Dom. I hope you are. 36-18 is great with what awaits them after the break. Since the Laker loss, I haven't liked how the defense has been trending. Maybe OG Anunoby makes all the difference. It is stressful to root for a good team that can't afford any injuries. That's the team that they built. That's the team that they built, at least for this season. Now, the caveat to that is Mitchell Robinson. And that was your get out of jail free card. That contract was the thing that if you were going to move something to get a reinforcement, to get someone that could help you sustain when you had an injury, if you had an injury, and turns out when you had an injury, that was the contract you were going to move. They looked at the marketplace. They said, we're not getting anything we like better than Mitch, for Mitch. And they stuck to their guns. And now we're sitting here, and Mitch hopefully is only going to miss another handful of games. So I think right now you'd have to say the patience has been worth it and give him credit. Deuce McBride, been awesome. Precious Achiuwa for $6 million. It was an up and down year. I think how he's played recently, that contract's looking pretty good at $6 million for 1 year. And campaign on the freaking minimum. On the minimum. Cannot say it enough. How big of a deal that signing campaign has been. So yeah, they need one other piece. In the absence of that piece, that they've done what they've done. And that's what's ironic kind of about your comment, Dom, and I'm not criticizing you for it, but you're saying it's stressful to root for a good team that can't afford injuries. They just got an injury to one of their most important players, inarguably one of their most important players, and they could afford it, essentially. They went 4-1. They went 4-1. So that to me says, for as much as it certainly doesn't feel like they could afford injuries because of how some of these games have come and gone down, they're getting it done. They're getting it done. Now, you want OG back. You want Mitch back. You want another transaction cycle. You want the ability to potentially maybe use your taxpayer mid-level exception this summer. Maybe use Precious in a sign and trade. Maybe use Mitch in some sort of, like, you got to exhaust all of the avenues to make sure that moving forward, when you will not be as hamstrung as the front office was this year because of all the cap constraints and what have you, you want to make sure that this is the only year of this team's run, of this roster's run, this core's run, that you're sitting around after the All-Star break and being like, well, we couldn't really do anything else because of X, Y, and Z. You know, moving forward, you got to figure that out. Because I agree with you. Right now, it's like they're a little short. They're a little short. Thank you, Dom. Nick Petroselli, what's going on, Nick? Big Knicks win. Question of the day. If you could add one player from the 2012-13 team, not Melo, to this current team, who would it be? Asked this last year, and I said Pablo. Did I say Pablo? That's interesting. So speaking of teams that won a decent number of games, 54-28 for that 2012-13 team. I'm going to just say that the player that I'm adding, it's not like I could add them at any age. So it's not like I get to add, prime Marcus Camby or prime Kurt Thomas, or prime Jason Kidd or any of that stuff. Man, this team had some freaking talent. Who would I add? What a great question. What a great question. Can't trust Shumpert's shot, so it's not going to be him. Could Novak defend today? Could Novak defend in the league today? I don't. Q Rich was already a little long in the tooth there. Shit, maybe I should say Pablo again. I'm looking at JR and I'm looking at Tyson Chandler, who were the second and third best players on that team. All due respect to Amari, but Amari, I think, had already kind of gone the way of the dinosaur by that point. I love you, Amari, but there wasn't quite happening that year. It would be either JR or Tyson, and I will go with I'll go with Chandler. And that's not any disrespect to Mitchell Robinson. It's just there's an injury question with Mitch, and frankly, Tyson Chandler at his best, and I know he only finished 13th in Defensive Player of the Year voting in this year, but his ceiling was Defensive Player of the Year good because he won it. I think at his best, he's better than Mitch, and it's not like Mitch is such a great switch guy or anything. So, Chandler, again, different sport now than 12 years ago. I'd go with Chandler. Lob threat, so maybe the Rudy Cat connection we saw in Minnesota last year. You could do that with Chandler. And, Chandler was just such a smart player. He was, he was an unselfish player. He did what you needed. He's an NBA champion, obviously. Did what he had to do to win games. I go with Chandler, and I think Mark's telling me he agrees with me. Good question, Nick. Good question. Kevin with another one. From a basketball perspective, I want the Hawks to get healthy and make a run to play the Knicks in the first round. From a fan view, absolutely not. Let's see here. My ranking for who I want to see versus don't want to see in the first round. I think I would not want to see the Pistons. I don't think I want to see the Pistons more than I don't want to see the Hawks. The Hawks pick and roll is frightening. It is frightening. But the thing is that I know, even with Dyson Daniels, and with all due respect to Dyson Daniels, I know the Knicks could score on the Hawks. Now, I shouldn't say that. The Hawks could score on the Pistons. I think the Knicks may have more answers against the Hawks than they have against a team with a 6'7", 6'8" point guard. I'm not saying Cade Cunningham is better than Trae Young, but the fact that the Pistons can relentlessly relentlessly target Jalen Brunson when he's on defense. And that's not a matchup that you could just say, okay, switch it. That's not an answer. That is not like tonight, the Knicks switched Brunson onto Trae Young quite a bit. Did it always go great? No, it did not always go great. But again, it lets you know just how much they're trying stuff out and trying to figure this out or that out with the roster that they currently have. The fact that they were just like willingly switching Brunson onto Trae Young over and over and over again tells you all you need to know. They will not do that against Cade. They will compromise everything else against Cade, and they should compromise everything else against Cade because that is not tenable, at least not on a consistent basis. So because of that specific thing, I think I'd rather face the Hawks. I'm not saying the Knicks wouldn't beat the Pistons. I think they would. I think they're a better team, obviously. I think they'd figure out some stuff. But, and I stand corrected. The Knicks could score against the Pistons. But the Pistons also present some challenges on that end, too. So I'd rather face the Hawks than the Pistons. Hopefully not famous last words. We'll see. Thanks, Kev. I'm officially out of water, which means we can move on to bourbon. Will Oliver, PTSD to the many years that shot goes in. Whew. Yeah, PTSD to last year when a couple of those shots did go in, courtesy of one Tyrese Maxey. But they were not able to pull that game out in overtime last year. They were able to pull off this game. So, yeah. Thanks, Will. Verpat, what's going on, Verpat? Not happy about the win, but relieved. That's fair. I mean, I hope you could get a little. I mean, think about it. You're gonna wake up tomorrow morning. You're gonna be sad. Are you gonna be like no emotion, or are you gonna be happy? I think you'll probably be happy tomorrow morning. I'll be happy tomorrow morning because I'll just be thinking of, oh my God, thank God they won that game. Thank God they didn't lose that game. For everything Cat gives us on offense, he's an absolute parking spot on defense. I don't know why this win feels like half a loss somehow. I think it's because you saw the Hawks run a layup line, which I am choosing to believe is in part because they were on the second night of a back-to-back and they were dead tired. Is Cat good on defense? No, Cat's not good on defense. Has he been arguably the worst he's been all season on defense over the last 3-4 games? Absolutely. Absolutely. I think it's fair to say that. Am I putting a lot into the fact that OG Anunoby has not been on the court? Yes. And I'm going to tell you why. I got it right here. Cleaning the glass. I should have these numbers memorized because I've looked them up a few times. So when Karl Anthony Towns is on the court and OG Anunoby is not on the court, it's according to Cleaning the Glass, the Knicks are giving up, drum roll please, 114.9 points per 100 possessions. But they're allowing 54.9 effective field goal percentage. When OG is on the court with Cat, I actually thought this discrepancy was a little bit bigger. Watch, it's going to be a worse number. All right, 113.7. So it's better. It's not as better as I thought it was. So, maybe not the be all end all that I'm making it out to be. It's better. It's better. But I'm still hanging my hat on that. That I think OG makes a big difference. So, and again, you're not in the playoffs. You're not playing back-to-backs. You're not going to be dead tired. You're not going to have no legs in the second half of the game. So thanks for Pat. Appreciate you, man. That's a very generous contribution. We appreciate it here. Trey, Sam Garcia. Trey needs to face reality and shave his head. Maybe he could get a sponsorship with Bic or Gillette. It's another way to go. Thanks, Sam. Hush Zoo. I repeat once again, Brunson stopper, they said. Look, the guy had a few moments. I think that's just the rules today, the offensive skill level of players today you're not, the best you could do is to get a player that is going to make the opposing team's offensive player have to make tough shot after tough shot after tough shot, or get turnovers and stops. I don't think that there's a player out there that can do a better job on Jalen Brunson than Dyson Daniels. But you know what that tells me? That tells me that Jalen Brunson is one of the 5 most gifted offensive players in the sport. And I stand by that. Thanks, Hush. Hey, Hush with another one. Feels like the All-Star break came at the perfect time now. I hope Mitch is that post-trade rejuvenation this team gets. Crazy how fast the season has went. Let's go Knicks. I was thinking about how fast the season has went. I was thinking back to opening night when we were at the most recent watch party, and the Pacers game that followed that, and the Cavs game that followed that, and it's, I'm not gonna say it's flown by, but there is a part of it that you kind of blink and you get to the All-Star break. But look, it's been a lot of ups and downs, like there is in every season, and we've felt all of them. I look forward to getting Mitch back. I don't think he's going to be back right after the trade or right after the All-Star break, but hopefully pretty soon thereafter. Thanks, Hush. Dom Cappuccini with another one. Before the first preseason injury update, I was all in on Mitch. We are close enough where I am getting back on that bandwagon. I'm sorry, but unless they acquire another big wing, I don't think they have an average D with Cat at the 5. Dom, the night they made the Towns trade, maybe not the night they made the Towns trade, because I think I forget if it was a Friday, and that's why Benji couldn't hop on. Did they make the Towns trade on a Friday night? It feels like they made it on a Friday night. Yes, that's why Benji couldn't hop on. But I think we did a pretty good job of covering it that night of the trade. But I will never forget the next night, or maybe it was Sunday, one of the next two, where Benji was like, I got to talk about this. And we hopped on Twitter Spaces. And like the first words out of his mouth, and again, I reference Benji because he's just, his X's and O's, he always gets right to the point. He's like, can they figure out Towns at the 5 defensively? That's the only question that matters when it comes to this basketball team. This year, next year, the year after that, moving forward, it's all that matters. It's all that mattered right when they made the trade, and it's all that matters today. And I guess the best thing I could say is I personally am still at a place where I don't feel like I know the answer definitively, whether or not they can survive with them at the 5 or not. I want to see a full season. I want to see them go through a playoff run against good teams that and not only teams that can game plan for them, but teams that they can game plan for over the course of a long series. A big wing will help, but at the end of the day, Brunson's going to be on the floor and Towns is going to be on the floor. So unless you get someone that like you could play big minutes where you don't have to play Towns at all, or not at all, but like as much as you need to play him because he's so fundamental to your offense, like he's going to be on the floor and Brunson's going to be on the floor. So you got to figure out how you go about this. And maybe Mitch is the answer. Maybe someone else is the answer. I don't know, but they're still figuring it out. That's for sure. Thanks, Tom. Parrish Duggar with another one. My God. A loss type win. That wasn't enjoyable at all. The only thing it proved is we have 2 legitimate all-stars. That's it. Being horribly coached kills things. I when you put it like this, I want to say it's a bit because it's so over the top. But at the same time, I know it's not a bit. I know you actually believe the words that are coming out of your mouth. I am thankful that for as much as this sort of talk does make its way around the internet that your sentiment here is not the reputation that Knicks fans have, because I would not want us to come off as a laughingstock to people who are like, look at this freaking team. They have the best team that they've had in, over 30 years. And all the fans want to do is complain about the coach, because we would look like a bunch of ass clowns. And I don't like it when Knicks fans look like ass clowns. So, all due respect to you, Parrish, I'm happy that you get to vent your frustration here, and that this is not something that will, mushroom like a cloud over all of this. Not that what the media says is the be all end all, but it's nice when Knicks fans are viewed kindly. Thanks, Parrish. Greg Film Stuff. What's going on, Greg? Glad we won. Discuss it with the process. I hate how New York allows Trey to torment them every time. Nice to see Cat get more comfortable with his handle, and I like how he's playing mean lately. I appreciate New York not giving up in the overtime also. I mean, so what do you do about it? What do you do about it? Do you double? Do you double and make the Hawks play 4-on-3 and make someone else beat you? Because that's the benefit of this Hawks team, is they have playmakers elsewhere on the court. And that's, I think, a big part of the reason why you see Onyeka Okongwu. I know Clint Capella didn't play tonight, but that's a big part of the reason I think Okongwu's in the starting five. I think he's obviously the Trey Capella pick and roll is very good, but Okongwu is maybe a little bit more of a playmaker, put the ball on the floor a little bit more. And now you got Dyson Daniels out there too. You could bring, and they not only could you bring you, they were bringing him into the action. When that dude can set the screen good enough, and that's where Trey's range comes in, because it's tougher to navigate that screen, because even if you don't respect Daniels as a shooter, the fact that you have to respect Trey as a shooter, but then if Daniels gets completely dislodged, Trey's gonna be able to make that pass, and Daniels is a point guard, so he can make the play there. You factor in Trey's touch, you factor in that they've gone out and got centers like Capella, like Okongwu, like Larry Nance before he got injured. Hope he gets better soon. It is an extraordinarily tough offense to guard when you don't have a point of attack defender that can stay connected. And tonight, Mikal Bridges was not very good at staying connected, and it showed. I am not going to sit here and kill him for it, because he has played 1 million minutes, and it's not like we haven't seen him do a better job, not only in scenarios that are generally similar to this, but in this exact scenario. The last time these two teams played, Mikal Bridges had one of his best defensive performances of the year in this exact situation. So we know he can do it. I think the guy was dead tired tonight, and he should be dead tired. If he wasn't dead tired, I would think that he was on steroids. So I get that you hate it. I get that you're disgusted with the process. I get. You got to try to put this stuff into context. And I know that makes me come off like an apologist, and some people don't want to hear that. Again, it all comes back. You're supposed to be a championship team, and I'm sitting here talking to you about tired legs, second nights of a back-to-back, when you give up 148 points. I get it. I get how it sounds. I know exactly how it sounds. I just refuse to let the conversation go by with, yep, they suck. It sucks. It's never going to get any better. It's just not fair. So, it's why I'm not disgusted. I'm disgusted by the last 10 seconds of regulation. That's what I was disgusted by. But that's me. Thanks, Greg. Jessica, hey Jess, I was thinking about you earlier today. I was like, where's Jess been? I haven't heard from her in a while. Let's go Knicks. Yes. Let's go Knicks. I hope you're doing well. Miss you. Stan Brad, 13. Not sure if you have a comment, Stan Brad. If you do, okay, you don't have a comment. So thank you for the contribution. Appreciate you. Tommy Whelan, what's going on, Tommy? How are you? Biggest takeaway from today's game, Towns' thumb seems fine. Nothing else would matter if Towns can't hit threes. Huge relief. Yeah, they need him to be able to hit threes, take threes confidently, and ideally on the sort of volume he took him tonight. Like, man, what I wouldn't give for this volume that we saw tonight from Towns to be a normal thing. That would be awesome. And then you want to add OG Anunoby in for as good as Precious Achiuwa has been. You want to add OG Anunoby to that mix as a threat from the corner and another cutter, although Precious was very good cutting tonight. That's what it all comes back to. You got to have that elite offense. I thought Towns, it feels like a million years ago now, and shout out to Jason. He brought this up on the halftime Zoom. He had a moment in the first half where they got him the ball on the elbow, as opposed to where Towns usually starts his drives at the top of the arc. They got it to him on the elbow, and all it was one dribble, face up, boom, little baby hook. I want to see more of that. If you don't want to be backing down the smaller guys, like Shaq or like Jokic or whatever, if that's not what you're comfortable with, which I'm not going to get on him for that when teams go small, then you got to figure out something else. And the something else maybe is, okay, maybe it's a little bit more of a high post. Maybe you do face up to start, but there's something a little bit more there. Put you in a position where you could still hit a cutter. It makes it easier for you to pass out to the 3-point line if that's where the pass is. So I want to see more stuff like that. In addition to the shooting, which is obviously very important. Thank you, Tommy. That's good. Here's Stan Brad. First time, long time. Thank you, Stan. I appreciate you coming on and taking the time and being generous. Just know it was the second night of a back-to-back, and they won. Tibbs is the best Knicks coach we've had in 30 years. You don't get rid of that. JB is ours. I promise you guys have seen my hands the whole time. I'm not, or actually, no, my hands have been down here. I promise you, Stan Brad 13 is not me super chatting under a alias. I promise. I swear on my kids. It's not me. Stan, I know when you're on social media and when you get in like a YouTube comment section like this, it could feel like an opinion like that is you against the world. It's not. The reason it feels that way is the people who are of the ilk to say the sorts of things that you are pushing back against. Those are always going to be the loudest people, and those are always going to be the people that want to get their opinions out there. The people who are a little bit more measured and who kind of take this stuff in stride and understand, it's about the bigger picture. It's about there's more to it than maybe what you see in the moment. They tend to stay quiet more often than not, which is maybe why it's your first time, long time. Either way, appreciate the sentiment and thank you for the contribution. Kevin with another one. The race for the East 10th seed is so funny. You know what? That's a great time to do our out-of-town scoreboard presented by our great friends, not good friends, great friends at T-Squared Social. So you should come for a watch party, obviously. We're going to have another one after the break against Cleveland on the 21st. I will not be at that one. I'll be in Florida, but I'll be at all the other ones after that, and you should still come. I'm thinking that my presence is what has been holding us back recently. So go to T-Squared. I'm sure they're going to get a win because I won't be there. You can also go to tsquaredsocial.com to learn more about club memberships, trivia nights, sports leagues, and much more. And don't forget, if you go there not on a watch party night, tell them KFS sent you, and you will get a free beer. Out-of-town scoreboard tonight. Every team in the NBA played tonight or is playing tonight. So I'm going to try to go through these a little on the quicker side, starting with the games that are over. The Mavericks beat the Warriors. Big, important win for the Mavericks, coming off a tough one against the Kings the other night. Kyrie Irving had 42.7 rebounds. The Jazz beat the Lakers. Holy shit. I tried to get this game on my TV after the Knicks game ended, and my internet, thankfully, it's not affecting things right now. Knock on. Where's wood? Where's my head? There's my head. Knock on wood. I couldn't get the game on. But they lost. The Lakers lost. Nuggets beat the Trailblazers. Jamal Murray had 55 points in that game. The Rockets beat the Suns. Kevin Durant had 37 points, 9 assists. It doesn't matter. The Suns stink. They are 2 games under 500. Tari Eason, big game there. Thunder beat the Heat 115-101. The Heat were winning that game for the majority of it. And then the Thunder outscored Coach Spo, the great Coach Spo, best coach in the league. Coach Spo would never let a lead completely evaporate in the fourth quarter. His team got outscored 32-8. 32-8 in the fourth quarter. 24-point turnaround. They lost by 14, went from a 10-point lead to a 14-point defeat for the Miami Heat. Kings beat the Pelicans. Bucks beat the Timberwolves. Heartbreaker for the Timberwolves. Lost to a Bucks team missing both Damian Lillard and Giannis Antetokounmpo. Pistons won against the Bulls for the second time in a row. Cavs wiped up on the Raptors. RJ had what I'm sure was a very #meaningful 27 points in that game. Nets, this is what you were referencing, Kevin, beat the Sixers 100-96. 30 points and 9 rebounds. How you doing, Quentin Grimes, baby? Wasn't enough to get the win tonight, but good job by you regardless. I might have too many tabs open here. I'm going to have to close some stuff. Paul George played in that game. Tyrese Maxey and Joel Embiid did not. And Pacers, I mentioned they beat the Wizards in overtime. Magic beat the Hornets. Celtics beat the Spurs, and the only game going on right now is Clippers-Grizzlies. Clippers up big in that game. So your Eastern Conference looks like this. Knicks, 2.5 back of Boston, and 5.5 up with the tiebreaker on Indiana. 6.5 up on Milwaukee. 7.5 up on Detroit. I think the third seed is pretty secure. After that, you got the Magic and Heat tied 2 games under 500 for 7th and 8th. The Hawks fell a half game back of the Magic and Heat by virtue of their loss tonight. So that's a big group right there in 7th, 8th, and 9th. Be very interesting to see who can get up to 7th out of those 3 teams and who falls down to 8th and then who falls down to 9th. In 10th place, you're fighting Chicago Bulls, who are 3-7 in their last 10 games and have lost 4 in a row. And yet they are a game and a half up on 11th. And 11th place, we have a tie for 11th between the Philadelphia 76ers and the Brooklyn Nets, who people thought were going to win 12 games this year. Both of those teams are a game and a half back of Chicago. With all due respect to what's going on, in the West play-in and for the top 6 in the West and, middle of the East, this is the most fascinating race in the NBA. What happens with this race is I cannot tell you how much I find this just it's the funniest thing in the world because it's 2 teams that I think desperately want to lose and another team that bet everything on winning this year. Because Joel Embiid and Paul George ain't getting any younger. And that's where we're at. Okay, that's your out-of-town scoreboard presented by T-Squared Social. Fuck Philly. Parrish Duggar. Precious, great stats, but he's too flawed. Yeah, he's a flawed player. And you know what good teams do? I'm not saying good coaches. I'm not gonna poke the bear. You know what good teams do? They figure out ways to take flawed players and tap into their strengths, and they help you win games. That's what good teams do. Thank you again, Parrish. Andrew Claudio, laugh at the Sixers. I'll never do the uproarious laughter that you do, but I am laughing at them, and they deserve to be laughed at. What a fucking joke that organization is. Tyrese Maxey should demand a trade. No, actually, you know, it'd be funny if like Kelly Oubre Jr. demanded a trade. That would be funny. Thank you, Andrew. Love you. Dom Cappuccini with another one. I would have been pleased with the split of the final two games. I just really hope that they could stay middle of the pack on defense. Top 10 seems out of the question for the year. I don't know why I got distracted, but I did get distracted earlier because I was planning on looking up how their defense has fared recently. It has not been good. Like, full stop. It has not been good. Since the team lost OG Anunoby, so the last 5 games, they have, I'm guessing they have probably a bottom 5 defense. No, just barely they don't have a bottom 5 defense, although the numbers say they are tied for 5th worst defense in the league over the last 5 games with the Washington Wizards at 122.5 points per 100 possessions allowed. The funny thing is they're 4-1 over their last 5 games, and they have a barely positive scoring margin. But that's them's the Knicks for you. Thanks, Tom. OG team. Good way to finish the first half of the season. If we ended with a loss to Boston, Halliburton, and Trae Young, I would probably have to off myself. Yeah, no, that would have been rough. Look, they're a team that figures out how to get wins against a lot of teams. They haven't figured out how to get wins against the teams that everybody cares about. They got time. Thanks, OG team. Okay, we got 10 left here. Let's go. Final run. Let's see if we get out of here under the 2-hour mark. Knicks fan patrol. Can we take 10 seconds to laugh at navy blue? That's navy blue. Philly? Did they wear navy blue uniforms tonight? I don't know. Oh, navy blue is a guy from the chat. That's what I'm being told. Sure. Ha! Ha. I would be able to laugh more uproariously if I had any clue who navy blue was. I have a streak going of that I've never read the YouTube comments to any post-game show, which is a streak that I'm very, very proud of, and I plan to keep going for a very long time. So I apologize if this person is like a regular. If you don't super chat, I don't see what you say. And it's not because I don't care, it's because I have too much shit to do. Thanks, Knicks Fan Patrol. Sam Garcia's dad, what's going on, Ray? How are you? I felt good about a lot of stuff for a good portion of the game, and now I'm left with utter relief to have won the game by the skin of their teeth. Both teams were so sloppy. I'm glad we won. Again, you find a way. Like Ian Malcolm said, life finds a way. Well, tonight, the Knicks found a way. It's all that matters. You get the win. Move on. Live to tell the tale. Live to see another day. Appreciate you, Ray. Thank you. Parrish Duggar with another one. So when are our fans going to stop inspiring Trae at MSG? I don't. Come on. Now you get on fans for saying fuck Trae Young? Parrish. You're reaching here, buddy. You're reaching. And you don't even have one of those things. What's the thing where if you're a larger individual, to help you wipe your ass? We need to get you one of those, Parrish. Might make your life easier. It had a name. It had a name. Remember, I see commercials for this thing all the time. I was like, if I had to buy something like that, I'd have to ask myself some questions. All right. Thanks, Parrish. Kevin with another one. Would trade at Dallas be the funniest outcome / plausible? I don't even know what that trade would look like. What are they going to do? Kyrie for Trae? Kyrie is going to get paid a lot of money this summer. No, I honestly, at this rate, I kind of think Trae's going to be like a Hawk until he's past his prime. If they were ever going to trade him, I think they would have traded him already. I don't I think he likes it there. I think he has a chance to go down. He doesn't have a chance to go down as the greatest Hawk of all time because not Paul Arizin. My God. Oh my Lord. It's late. This is embarrassing. One of the greatest players of all time played in the opening years of the NBA, whose name is, of course, escaping me at the moment. I'm gonna have to stop the whole freaking thing and look it up. Anyway, but also Dominique Wilkins. Does he have a chance to go past Dominique Wilkins? Maybe. Jesus Christ, Bob Pettit. I hope wherever you are, you forgive me for that. That was a bad job by me. But he has a chance to end up as one of the greatest Hawks of all time, for sure. I don't know about in terms of like getting up there in terms of total points. That's, I don't know, maybe. But I don't think he's going to go anywhere. I think he's going to stay for a while. That's my gut feeling. Here. Total points for the Hawks. So Neek is first, 23,000 and change. Pettit is 20,000 and change. Trae Young's already up to 11,500. So he's literally like almost exactly halfway to Dominique Wilkins after 7 seasons. He can get there. Thanks, Kev. Russ Guberman, what's going on, Russ? I just dragged my 3 cranky children to an iPhone fix-it place to beg for a substitute phone for my wife, and I feel like you all had a more stressful night. Yes, without question. That does sound pretty awful, though. That does sound pretty freaking terrible, and my sympathies to you. Husband of the year. Thanks, Russ. Robert Cross. I did not expect this. What a pleasant surprise. First time, long time at your boy, John. Just got off my hydro massage at Planet Fitness. You don't actually use those. Jesus. I had so much respect for you. Heading into the break, are you bullish or bearish on the Knicks as a title contender this year? I'm bullish. I'm bullish on them as a title contender. I was on ESPN radio earlier today, and they asked me, are they a real contender? I said, yeah, they're a real contender. A contender means, you could win the title. Like lightning doesn't have to strike or something for you to win the title. Is there a world where the Knicks can win the title this year? Absolutely, they could win the title. I don't think it's likely, but they have more than like a 1% chance in my mind, and I don't think I've ever thought that since I was a teenager. So yeah, I think they're contenders. Robert's got another one. First time, long time. It's your boy John. Money Mitch is my guy. If he comes back at 75%, what impact does he have on the team going forward this year? I don't know what 75% of Mitchell Robinson is. I think he's the type of guy that, I mean, I don't think that would be a good enough impact. If I'm really going to be bullish on them, to your last question, I think I need to believe that the Mitch we're getting is at least has the capability of dialing it up to the level of what we saw Mitch at the beginning of last season, when he looked like one of the best defensive players in the league. But like, you could tell me that Mitch is going to average 14 minutes a game for the rest of the year, 14 minutes a game for the rest of the year. You could tell me that he's going to average 25 minutes a game for the rest of the year, and I'd believe either. I think it's probably going to be closer to 12 than 25. But at this point, I think I've seen enough to change my tune from the beginning of the year, where I was like, I want to see what they could get for Mitch. I don't care to wait for Mitch to come back. I'm all in on Cat at the 5. Now I'm more like, let's see what we got with Mitch in the game next to Cat. And I think the reason I've kind of been pushed to that direction, yeah, part of it's the defense, obviously. But another part of it is this offense has been able to find so many solutions under so many circumstances. And they are so good and so talented and so smart. Like, again, they have Precious Achiuwa out there, and they look like an incredible team. And the other part of it is, so if the whole thing is you got to make sure that teams can't put a center on Cat, and if you play Mitchell Robinson, then it gives a team an excuse to not put a center on the Cat. Well, all these great defensive teams, the Thunder and the Celtics and maybe even the Cavs, well, they're already not putting centers on Karl-Anthony Towns. They are already willingly switching players onto Karl-Anthony Towns that are not centers. So if you have Mitch in there, and like, what are you really losing? And this is an interesting conversation I'm going to have. I'm going to have Fred on the pod tomorrow. We're going to run that pod at some point during the All-Star break. I want to talk to him about this, and I want to talk to Benji and DJ about it too, because, and actually, I'm probably going to talk to DJ about it tomorrow because we're recording a Patreon pod. Shout out to all of our patrons. I think it's an interesting question. You know, what are you really losing? Now, I have other questions about Mitchell Robinson, specifically his lack of skill on the offensive side of the ball and how much that will or will not hurt them. But to answer your question, Robert, I got to see Mitch close to peak defensive self before I'm you know, I got to see him at close to peak. And then we got another one from Robert Cross that just came in. First time, long time. It's your boy John. What are the other two reasons you are bullish besides Jalen Brunson? I only get two. I believe in the character of this team. That's number one. Number two, I think they will exhaust all potential solutions to the problem of the defense. And yeah. And I think they'll find something. Thanks, Robert. And again, this is my justification for why I think they have like an 8% chance to win the title this year. You know, not a 50% chance or a 30% chance, like an 8% chance or maybe like a 10% chance. Even that I think is too high. Thanks, Robert. Kevin Danishevsky, didn't Haynes say Trey's future in Atlanta is murky? Did he say? Yeah, you're right. He did say something like that. I forgot that. I don't know. I'll believe it when I see it. You know, there was a lot of that stuff going around. What was it? Not this past summer, the summer before that. I think he's a funky guy to trade. And I don't know if you're a team. It would kind of take a team that is in a little bit of a desperate situation. But like, who's making that trade? I don't think Dallas is making that trade. Who's making that trade? Like, if you're trading away Trae Young, you have to get back a guy. So it's going to be, I don't want to say a damaged goods for damaged goods trade because I don't consider Trae Young to be damaged goods, but like a situation where, you know, unless the Hawks unless there was a team willing to give up the mother load of picks, and I'm just looking through the teams. We're going to do this really fast. Okay, I'm already almost at 2 hours. How fast can I do this? Cleveland, no. Boston, no. The Knicks, no. Pacers, no. Bucks, no. Pistons, no. Magic, put aside for a second. Heat, I don't see it. And they don't have the picks and they don't have the players. Bulls, no. Sixers, no. Nets, no. I'm not buying that. Not crazy. Not crazy, but it's a no. Raptors, quickly in a bunch of picks for Trae Young, quickly in salary and a bunch of picks for Trae Young. That's a funky one. That's too much fantasy basketball for me. Charlotte, no. Wizards, no. Thunder, no. Grizzlies, no. Nuggets, no. Rockets, don't see it. Lakers, don't They don't have what it takes. Clippers, I don't know what they would trade. No. Wolves, no. Kings, no. Mavs, no. Warriors, no. Suns, no. Spurs just made their trade. Blazers, no. Jazz, no. Pelicans already traded for a Hawks point guard. So comes back to the Magic. So Magic, you want to tell me that Suggs plus stuff plus all the picks get you Trae Young? Do they want to do that? Is that that's their all-in move? Man, I don't know. I would have to sit down for a while and really think about that one. Yeah, maybe. I don't know. Thanks, Kev. Oh, wait, we got another one from Robert Cross. Robert Cross is on one. His whatever cryo tube at Planet Fitness got him all fired up. First time, long time. It's your boy John. Fearless prediction: Mitch starts heading into the playoffs, and Hart becomes the sixth man and finishes games. Thanks. I'll hang up and listen. I don't think it's going to happen. It's not crazy to me. I don't think the philosophy of it is crazy to me. The actuality of it happening, I think, is very unlikely. The theory of it, I don't think is crazy. The actuality of it, you're telling me that Josh Hart, after starting this entire season and having people genuinely talking about him in conversation for the All-Star team, is going to be moved to the bench in favor of Mitchell Robinson. Okay. Man. I don't see it. I don't see them doing it. Again, don't think it's nuts. Don't think you're nuts for suggesting it. I was talking to Kevin Danishevsky about this earlier today. He asked me what percentage chance I gave it. I said 0%. Maybe if they're down in a playoff series and Mitch is playing really well, I'll eat my words. But as of now, I don't think it's going to happen. Thank you, Robert. Mecky, what's going on, Mecky? How you doing, buddy? Okay, so this is we have two more. This is the next to last. When I had looked at the schedule leading up to the All-Star break, I had never imagined a performance this good. They found a way, I believe. Mecky, you're my guy. Thank you. Yes, some fucking positivity. Jesus Christ. Thank you, my friend. It's not easy. It ain't easy to win 2 out of every 3 games over 2/3 of a season. It is not easy. It doesn't matter who you are or how much talent you have or who your coach is or how deep you are or any of that shit. It is hard. As proven by the fact that only 4 teams in the league have a better record than the Knicks right now. That's it. Just 4. And one of them just won the championship. So there you go. And the Grizzlies are playing right now. And they're going to lose. So there's only going to be 3 teams with a better record than the Knicks. How about that? How about them apples? Thanks, Mecky. And last one, Matt Knicks Scotland. My buddy. I could go for another one of those pastrami Rubens. It shouldn't have been close, and people will be frustrated. But a 1-point win in overtime. MSG was wild. Holy fuck! What a way to end my trip. So, Matt, I actually almost forgot that you were at the arena tonight. I guarantee you that is a memory that you will take with you for the rest of your life. Was it worth the trip to Scotland to see that? I would say so. Would I have felt worse for you if you came all the way from the other side of the world and the 2 games that you got to see at MSG were that ass beating at the hands of the Celtics and then a blown lead with 10 seconds left in regulation? Matt, I would have sent you a case of the single malt of your choice. Because that would have been the most brutal thing in the world, and yet you got to see a great win. So kudos to you. And again, thank you so much for your generosity and for hanging out with me a little bit earlier this week. Okay. Whew. But goodness gracious. Thank you everybody for checking out another episode of the Knicks Film School Postgame Show. This was something. Not whether you were at the stadium or at the arena or not. Not a game that anybody's going to soon forget. And that's why we watch the team, right? Thanks for tuning in to the KFS Postgame Show presented by BetUS. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, leave a 5-star rating if you're listening in podcast form, and we appreciate your patronage. You are going to hear from me in all the normal shows. Going to be recording something with Andrew on Friday morning. Going to be recording the Patreon pods. Going to be recording with Fred. All the usual stuff. But so stay tuned, even though I'm going on vacation. The next post-game show that you will see me on will be a little while from now, after the first 2 games after the All-Star break. I think I forget off the top of my head when that game is going to be, but you'll see me soon. In the meantime, you got some great people filling in for me. Benji Ridholtz, DJ Zulo. We're going to take the first 2 post games, I believe, after the break. Pretty sure about that. And yeah, you'll hear from me next when? Oh, great. Awesome. After the game at Boston on Sunday night. What could go wrong? Okay. Until then, I'll catch everybody later. Peace out.